the difference when you do transitions between a transition and a mere crossover? Oh, that's easy. A transition is the full thing. It's while their consciousness is still alive, from physical death to ascension into the light, I follow that all the way through, including feeling how they feel, looking around, seeing what they're seeing through their consciousness. That's a transition. It's the whole thing. I did one recently for Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. I'll be posting that shortly. Whereas in a crossover, I don't get into any of the feelings. I simply follow them from being alive to being dead, from having form to being formless, from physical to non-physical. For example, somebody asked me to do pictures for Clara Bow. Do you know about her? She was a film actress in the 1930s, absolutely huge in her day. She made films like Dangerous Curves and Ladies of the Mob and stuff like that. She was the original It Girl, apparently. Had a absolutely phenomenal career, known as a crazy redhead. Nobody kind of knew what she would do, but she was mesmerizing on the screen. Despite having come from a really terrible childhood, her father raped her, her mother fell out of an upstairs window at some point and became completely deranged, tried to kill Clara with a butcher's knife. Despite all of that, Clara went on to become a huge, huge star in her own right. And I think she retired in 1933, but she too was overtaken by psychiatric illness and was diagnosed as schizophrenic eventually. Became a recluse and died of a heart attack in 1965. I really wasn't interested in doing her full transition. I thought I'd just do a crossover for her to see how that was, because she was really mentally ill towards the end. And yet it developed into so much more. When I went into the energy, she was floating downwards into a funnel of clouds. And when she came down into that metaphorical cave I always see, she was on a wire that suspended her slightly above the ground so that she could survey her surroundings and decide if she wanted to go the whole way. This was a process for her. It's like, oh, so this is death, is it? Uh-huh. It's as though she was slowly coming to terms with the idea that she could let go of life. She didn't have to cling on to the problems she had, the mental problems, any physical problems, her childhood, so on. She could just let go of it. And when this dawned on her, the wire lowered her to the ground. She released herself, she unhooked it, and immediately was filled with joy. The joy of freedom. Oh my God, oh my God. She ran around, she danced, she jumped. It was very much like if you'd been trapped in a bunker for 10 years. And then suddenly, one day, you're released onto a breezy cliff top. You smell the air, you hear the ocean, seagulls, see the sky. That's how her transition felt for her. She was elated. Good. I'm glad it's over. Fantastic. Now let's leave all that behind and move on. And in fact, I was just going to do the crossover, but she went off running up the tunnel and I had to follow her. It was amazing. She was so delighted to be relieved of the burden that she carried around in life. All the success she had, the money, the house she had, everything she had meant nothing to her at this point. Good. I'm glad that's behind me. It was insignificant. What mattered was authenticity. What mattered was freedom. She had none of those ego encumbrances that so many of us have in life. I think probably because of her mental state. But she ran up the tunnel, saw the light, this dome, this symbolic dome that I always see at the end of the process, and simply ran at it, dived into it like a swimming pool. Goodbye, world. I'm done. And she was gone. And with her went this phenomenal energy, this phenomenal buoyancy of somebody who had been held down in life at some kind of spiritual soul level, but now was free of all that and could really start to live, actually. So that's an example of a crossover that kind of got out of hand and just turned into a transition because it was so fast. And I didn't need to feel what she was feeling or go into her consciousness because I could see it. She was skipping and jumping and dancing and elated. And Clara Bow couldn't have been happier to be rid of her mortal self.